What's trending? The economy.
So the economy is chugging away, I guess, except in Washington State where there are serious problems. And we know a big piece of this is coming from the Washington State Democratic Party pushing historically high taxes to the tune of $9 billion. And at the same time, they pushed the $9.4 billion in tax hikes. We're still dealing with a significant deficit in the budget, upwards of 12 to 16 billion or so over the next 4 years. And again, that's despite the $9.5 billion tax hike. So we got a survey from the Association of Washington Businesses. They put out their fall 2025 survey, and they talked to hundreds of different employers across the state from, everywhere from Seattle to Spokane, Bellingham to Vancouver, everything in between. They had a good mix from different industries. These are businesses of all different sizes. And they had two huge findings of note. Number one, as this should come as no shock to anyone, taxes are a top concern of businesses. 65% of employers say taxes are their main concern, which is up from 58% in summer when they last did this survey. That makes total sense because between summer and the fall, you had the implementation of these new taxes. But the other big one is that 76% said these taxes are directly negatively impacting our business. So much so that they say they are forced, essentially, to pass this on to the customer. Now, while they're passing along these new taxes to customers across all different industries, what are Democrats nationally saying? They're telling us that the cost of goods and services, everything that's gone up, this is directly a crisis that Trump created. It's tariff related, it's inflation, all these things that they're suddenly pretending to care about. But the reality is, well, there's no doubt inflation plays a role in this. The reality is you've got taxes that have been imposed on these businesses that are now being pushed upon us. And rather than say, maybe we ought to fix that, Democrats are just saying, no, see, this is all Donald Trump. They're creating this crisis and then they're blaming Donald Trump. They're creating this crisis and then blaming someone who did not create the crisis. Contributed in small parts here or there, no doubt. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But Democrats created this mess. Period. And they can pretend all they want. They do that. They claim otherwise, and they try to deflect their own blame, mostly because, again, they know that they can get away with it, that the Seattle Times is not going to call them out, the Spokesman Review or the Tacoma News Tribune or the Everett Herald, they're not going to say anything critical and point to who's actually responsible here. They say 28% of respondents described the state economy as weak compared to only 17% last fall. 27% reported a downturn in their own business, which is up from 17% last fall. And then they say 41% of employers expect the state economy to enter a recession in the next year, which is dramatically up from 14% when they were previously asked this a year ago. So 18 to 41% in being, pretty confident that we're going to get into a recession in Washington State is, impactful, important. We should be paying attention to that. And again, remember, this was a policy choice. The Democrats could have chosen to make cuts, at least somewhere, somehow, but they chose mostly not to. You had Bob Ferguson, who promised us, vowed to us, he would 100% never, ever in a million years raise taxes, and then he immediately raised taxes. And if you think anyone's going to look at any of this data and say, well, maybe we should go in the opposite direction, make more. No, again, we've heard from a number of Democrat lawmakers who say come January in the next legislative session, they're going to introduce more taxes. Okay. That sounds good. Thanks. Things are definitely looking up. But Trump did this. Okay. It's weird how that works. Why does he keep doing that in Washington? Why does he keep raising taxes in Washington State?
I know he really needs to stay out of our business.
So weird. I don't get it.